Hello, hello, hello. Uh, we got some guests. We have Ada and Jill in the audience. Uh, Greetings. I don't know how this is going to go. This is the first time I'm doing this. So I have a few questions. I'm going to see it if people don't ask them. This will work best if, need to turn the audio. Need to turn the, what was I going to say? If you want to join as a guest, you should have the StreamYard link too, and I can put you on stage. Um, me, but I have some questions I've been asked in combos with people recently around traveling abroad, living abroad, thinking about the different stages of a journey after you leave a job. So those are two things I'll probably start with. We'll see if we can get a few more people joining. It looks like there's 3 people. Looks like Jill and Aida are becoming friends. Yeah, let's kick off. So one thing I've been doing recently is chunking my work blocks into 7-week periods where I take every 7th week off. And I've noticed a lot of nice. I've noticed a lot of benefits from this of just really focusing on moving towards the things I want to get done. So one of the challenges in my path I've experienced is just this slow creep of like admin work. I'm like 5 years into self-employment and I have like 37 different projects or so. So these 7-week periods, every 7th week off, 6 weeks work block, 1 to 3 priorities have really helped me focus on what I want to do. So that's been one thing top of my mind lately. I've been trying to share with people, and I think honestly, this could be a really interesting thing for the broader workforce in the coming years, especially as we're starting to wake up to great work is not possible from this continuous steady hours pace that most companies seem to operate at. But yeah, what do you guys want me to talk about? Make sabbaticals a thing. Yeah. So shout out to Sean McCabe. I'll drop his link in the thing. He started doing this like 6 years ago, and he does it for his entire team now. So everyone in his team takes 7 weeks off a year, and he wants to make this like a thing by 2047. And I told him I want to enlist as a free unpaid intern to help him spread this idea. So yeah, and I don't know why he picked 7 weeks. I think there's probably something, I don't know, maybe it just feels right. I tried 8 weeks at the beginning and 7 weeks felt better. I think because of the 6 weeks is like feels good, is like you can kind of do a tough, challenging project. But then you're getting to that point when you kind of need a break again. In the Bible, they There we go. We're back. Lost internet there for a second. But so maybe there's a biblical connection, every 7th day off and then every 7th year off, both in the Bible. Nothing about every 7th week off, but how do I structure my 6 weeks on changing and evolving. My mindset has very much been around, okay, here's one thing I'm going to do no matter what, right? This is the thing no matter what. If everything all burns down, I will accomplish this. And I've more or less been able to do that. I started doing it when I was writing my book. And I'm going to move this over here. And it helped me ship my draft, get to like some milestones in launching my book. It's it Another benefit is it just forces me to like automate or eliminate some of the creeping admin work. But yeah, 6 people now. Awesome. More questions. What do we have? What do you want to know about future of work? Um, yeah, interesting. I think if you're freelancing, it can be hard. I have heard this done though. Sean was a freelancer and coach for many years. And he basically would just tell his clients that he was doing this. And most of them were like, okay. Um, I think it's really about practicing like your relationship with uncertainty. Like I run my finances pretty close to the bone, and have for quite a while, and didn't really make much in my first few years. For me, it's really optimizing to like stay energized. I have some health issues, and so I can't really go at the full pace, nonstop work year round. Like I just wouldn't be able to survive on this path, because I just always have like off days, off weeks, sometimes off months. So that's kind of my angle on it. It's sort of out of necessity. Hey, Aravind, welcome to the chat. Yeah, yeah, I think it's so hard, Jill. Yeah, I like this. Like freelancing, self-employment is so hard. Like I figured out some stuff, but I'm 5 years in, and it's just constant reflection and figuring out how to manage this. It's really hard. But I love figuring it out and I love writing about it. So that's a good forcing function for me for making me actually try those things. Um, yeah, I think the biggest benefit of being self employed is you're the owner and you get to decide. I think I write this in my book, but it's like a lot of people become self employed only to find they have a manager in their head, right? So you got to fire that manager and then start taking ownership again. But yeah, I think the first step too, I often recommend for people is to literally just block off like a freedom afternoon where you say, okay, I should like try to eliminate should from your mindset. Take the afternoon off and just wander, walk somewhere without a destination. I've asked many people, have you ever walked somewhere without a destination? Some people have literally never done that in their entire life. So just do it once, see where you end up, see how you feel, and then figure out what's next. Um, I don't know how to do like these all or nothing shifts. Let's see. Are you actually able to disconnect from your? Yeah, I'm pretty good at this. It's funny. Me and Sean did a podcast on this last year where he did the sabbatical thing to work less. He was overworked and he wanted to work less. I had sort of the opposite problem. I had really leaned hard into this non-work mode, meaning I wake up every day and I really just spend my time as I want. Like I'm pragmatically trying to like make money, not turning down things, but I'm not pushing on anything. I wasn't trying to optimize for um, maximizing for income or anything. So I just had all these like subtle things I was constantly doing. So I do like a few hours of stuff every day. And I wanted to like force that I would ship stuff and be a little more ambitious in the work side. But yeah, I just don't do anything. I wake up, see where I wander. I often go on bike rides. I read a lot. I try not to use devices, but it's worked pretty well. feel 1 week is not going to be enough. Yeah, I think this is a great point. So the 1 week works really well for me now, but the first couple of years, I'm 5 years into being self-employed, I practiced non-work. Like it was almost my primary goal to learn to disconnect from what I call the worker mode. I had spent basically my entire life in worker mode. Worker mode is when you're in school and you're always moving towards the next grade, the next test, the next grade, like the next school, the next application. Then you're trying to land a job. And then you're trying to land the next job. You're trying to get promoted. Like you're constantly living in the future. So when I left my job, I really wanted to lean in the other direction and experience this more historical idea of leisure, which is this deep contemplation, this active engagement with the world, this connectedness that so many philosophers and poets and people in literature have talked about. Um, so I did several months of like non-work in my first couple of years. All seemed crazy at the time. All were like at points when like financially it was didn't make any sense, but I had this sense that like I needed to find that connectedness. Um, and then moving to Asia, lowering my cost of living, I was really able to disconnect from like my default scripts of America and hustle and do work, work, work. Um, so now I'm able to drop into that leisure mode really fast. I know what that state feels like. I know how to get there. I know the kinds of activities and modes I can be in. But yeah, I think um, right now I'm sort of in a season of my life where like I want to have kids soon. I'm in the US, it's expensive. I'm trying to like push a lot of the things I'm excited about, lean into that. I imagine there'll be periods in the future where I need to take a month off again too. Um, these paths just aren't sustainable working on your own, I think. Yeah, non-work. Um, yeah, I agree. I have a lot of mentors with kids doing these kind of things. That is my whole goal, though. My whole goal for like these things for the last 5 years has been practicing non-work, working less, creating products that don't need my time to make money, such that when I have kids, I have a better floor and foundation to like lean into being a more active parent. And that's very important for me, and I'm pretty confident I can do it now at this point. Um, but yeah, I don't know anything until that happens. But yeah, I'm an extreme optimist. So I am much more excited about life when I am thinking this is possible rather than like this will be hard and I should optimize to avoid future pain. Right. So some Simone, is there anything that might compel you to take another full-time job? So I've had multiple friends tell me, Paul, if you take a full-time job, how are any of us going to make it? And then like some of my writing is just sort of like burn the bridges, like say like I couldn't go back. So I've sort of created this trap where like I can't really go back. And I think it's good because I love this current path. I love self-employment. Um, and um, right now, I think I'm able to make it work and pay for my cost of living, and do self-employment. So it's working. I think it will continue to work. I have the amount of savings to basically not make money for a year, probably spending around like 40 to 50 grand to live. Might need to move abroad if I was doing that. So like that's always there is like the safety net. I always have like more cash than like most people would recommend. Um, but yeah, I don't want to go back to full time work. I think something that might compel me is if I was being part of an interesting team, like building something I was excited about, maybe tied to education or like kids in the future, maybe getting involved with homeschooling or something like that. I think that could excite me, but I don't see working more than like 3.5, 4 days a week for like any sort of institution. I just would like set firm boundaries. Here's what I'm willing to do. Some people have said like, oh, if you get paid $1 million, would you work for a year? Um, only if I got the million at the end of the year, maybe, but probably not. It'd probably need to be a lot more. But the problem is, if I just work for a month, I would just quit. And like, uh, I already feel financially secure on like numbers that are way less than most other people. So it's just like, I don't know why I would want to do it. Um, but yeah, I ask this question a lot, and it challenges me to think, okay, double down on what you claim to care about and make self-employment work. Um, Back to the time off with my wife's schedule. Yes, we have coordinated it. We got a little unaligned. Um, this year, I took a week off for South by Southwest. She took it a different week. So we're not aligned right now. We're probably going to realign around the summer because we have some time off at the end of June. But yeah, I try to coordinate with her. She's in a silent retreat right now for 10 days. So this is kind of like her off week. So we're a little off again too. But one interesting thing about me and Angie is that we basically spend every day together. She has a desk over here, has been home with me for almost the entire time we've been together. She worked in a gym, but always had a flexible schedule when we were living in Taiwan. But we've probably spent more time together in like the first 4 years of knowing each other than many couples in like traditional work lives have spent together in like 10 years. Because we spend most days together, we optimize like around our relationship, doing things with each other and things like that. So yeah, it's fun to have her around. Sometimes she wants time off, not with me too. JPTR. What am I spending my time thinking about right now? A big thing right now is I've sort of had these two personalities or something. With the work I'm doing. I have this like strategy consulting skills training I do with like corporates. I do coaching. I do these corporate cohort based courses. I sell an online course. And I'm not super, um, that's not like the pull of the universe there, but I like it. It's good. I'm good at it. I can make money doing it. But my attention has really been like the book, and having conversations like this with people and writing about these ideas and helping people coordinate paths and like just talking with literally anyone who wants help. Like I love this. It gives me so much life and energy. So I'm actually trying to lean more in that direction. Um, and one thing I've been doing is saying like, okay, how can I get my newsletter and podcast sponsored such that I can continue to make those and kind of like shift the needle such that maybe over the next couple of years things drift towards that. It'd be really cool if I could make that work to like become a full-time writer and helping people think about these things. I think I'll always do like the strategy corporate freelance consulting at least a little bit. I've always done like a little bit here and there, mostly because it like keeps me engaged with like the corporate world, what's going on there, and like thinking about online learning and corporate training and culture. And a lot of those topics I like thinking about. I don't want to just become like a thought leader. I want to be like in the game. I want to be producing things, creating things such that I'm like talking from real experience. So that's kind of what's on my mind. What's interesting me is like everything these days. Like, I mean, it's always like this. I'm reading like 4 or 5 books. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize how much information I consume. I love it. I kind of design my life around that so I can have more time doing that. Usually reading like 3 or 4 books at once. Probably read like dozens of articles each week, a lot of long form, listening to podcasts. Yeah, and just trying to like generate ideas, think about different paths. I've been doing a lot of help with some of my friends in the creator economy, thinking about how they can package their services to like charge higher rates and things like that. So that's been really fun. Um, whose work am I excited about right now? Honestly, like people like yours. Like we, for the audience, like we talk talked last week, like you're at the beginning of like trying to figure this out too, and like you have so much energy and excitement about what you're doing. Like I get so pumped seeing people starting out. Um, that just excites me so much. About right, yeah, right now. um, yeah, I love it. Like I love people starting stuff, being brave, creating, sharing ideas in public. I think it's so important. And like the message I want to hammer home to people is like, you matter, your work matters, and I'll support you. Yeah, that's what I'm most excited about right now. Really excited being in Austin. There's a lot of things happening with like people building podcast studios, people doing all these internet kind of writing online things, and really just supporting each other and building communities around that. So that's been pretty exciting. Um, yeah, I'm excited to read Tyler Cowen and Daniel Gross's book around talent. I Talent is a topic that's interested me for a while. Most companies are terrible at assessing talent. Most people think they can assess talent well, but can't. So that's a book I'm reading now. What else am I reading? Um, making my way through Lee Kuan Yew's autobiography. He's the former prime minister of Singapore. Fascinating, just like lens through history. I just read this book, The Last Highlander, recommended by Chris Williamson, who does the Modern Wisdom podcast. That book was fascinating, about a prisoner of war for a Japanese prisoner of war, or a Irish prisoner of war captured by the Japanese and working in these work camps in World War II, and like how he made it through. Fascinating book. I'm also reading this book, Self Renewal by John Gardner, about like chaotic and complex systems. It was published in the 1960s. What outlets do I like for articles? I read a lot of newsletter people, and then I just like sort of save articles. A big thing I do is just block politics and news. I like the browser. Yuri Brahm runs that. He does a great job. Um, and Yeah, I read. I have like a whole blog list. I'm pulling it up now. I go to blogs like longform.org, longreads.com, Marginal Revolution, um, just people's Twitter feeds, different newsletters I subscribe to. I'm always finding interesting articles. The Matter app is really good for like surfacing interesting articles, old and new. I'm always asking for recommendations. So, yeah, those are some suggestions. What do I decide to work on? I don't know. It's kind of like a little bit of magic. How does this happen? I really just try to trust my intuition and attention. From a business financial perspective, what I focus on like probably has been stupid financially for me for the past few years, but it's been where my energy's pulled. In 2020, I had this like that consulting course I was talking about before, and there was an opportunity to like basically scale that up. Like 2021 was a great year to lean into online learning. It's really slowing now. It's harder to sell. You need to raise the value more now too. Um, but I asked myself, what would I do with more money? And I decided I would write. So that's why I decided to write my book. Um, it's really just making sure I'm always feeding my soul, I think. Like that energy, that like connectedness to the world. As long as I'm doing that work, like I have the energy and excitement to keep going. But I think like I'm always taking ideas. I'm talking to other creators, online people, noticing what other people are doing, and I try to do experiments. So I'll create experiments with 1 to 3 month time horizons, and I call it ship, quit, and learn. Design something for shipping, design it for quitting, and the only goal is to learn what to do next. That's it, and that's basically how I do that. Like right now, I have so many things I like doing now. It is really hard. I don't, I don't know. I'm just dropping the ball on a few things, to be honest. Um, how does the concept of talent tie in with mediocrity? I need to think about this. for people that didn't read this thread, um, mediocrity, like I think one thing I've realized, like I've worked with some incredibly ambitious and capable people in my career. And these are the kind of people that just naturally do these crazy ambitious things. Like they see an opportunity and they go to 100x right away. That is not me. That is also not most people, which is why like I think it's useful to like find these crazily successful ambitious people just to like see what they're like. They don't go through like these periods of doubt and like trying to figure out what to do next. They just like go. So mediocrity is really this like pushback against this idea that we should all be like striving to do our best, right? And what I mean by that is like pushing towards the future, like sacrificing now for these large future goals. Really, what I'm talking about in my book, The Pathless Path, is leaning against that and sort of like hitting pause, going within, figuring out what matters to you, and trying to like ride that groove and like go a little slower and like just find the things that only you can do. I've had so this group conversation emerged out of these curiosity conversations I've been having. I think I've probably had the most in the world of these. I've had 383. I counted last week, and I don't think anyone else has been able to like people don't be able, like people don't do this, I don't think. Um, but it's something that's like very easy and natural for me. It's actually energizing. It helps my writing. It excites me. I love meeting people. Um, they're nothing like special. I'm not like blowing people's mind. I'm not like the best in the world in this, but I'm like the only person doing this, right? So if you just keep doing things, like extraordinary things actually are possible from mediocrity. And I'm not sure if I'm like selling that like perfectly. I think with my book too, I am not like the greatest writer of all time, but I consistently wrote about a topic that only I saw as interesting and like was pretty much dismissed for years. People would mock me and like, you're naive, you're cynical. It's like, I think there's something here. And I just kept doing like sort of mediocre newsletter posts, try to get better slowly. And over time, you end up on this like path that is only your path. And what I've realized recently is like once you've found that groove, the level of ambition is really just a question of time. So like I I often choose to go slower. I see an opportunity and I say, I think the interesting choice here is to not to do anything. So you can either choose to go all in or choose to do nothing or just choose not to decide yet. Um, me, that's really sustainable for me. And I think more for many people. Like the whole goal of my journey is not to burn out. I don't want to create another job. Um, so that's kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of that. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think if you're the kind of person that's like, "Oh, how do I get better at X?" That's actually not how the most ambitious people think. They sort of start with like, I am going to do this crazy thing. Now let's figure out how to do it. That's sort of how I was with like going on a self-employment path is like I just wanted to like figure out how to make it work as I went. I just wanted the ideas. Um I didn't care about like the best practices. I just wanted to like sample ideas and like absorb them. But yeah. Um Center that Venn diagram. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. It's sort of like, I mean, one of my biggest pet peeves is the ikigai diagram. Um, it's like do what you love. Let me see if I can share it. Yeah, so it's this ikigai diagram here, right? Do what you love, what you're good at. Freaking ads. What you paid for, what the world needs. This is not a Japanese concept. The Japanese word ikigai means reason for being and has nothing to do with these things. This was basically a diagram created by this guy in Spain, Andres Zuzaniga, I think. And then Mark Wynn, an English blogger, changed the word purpose in the middle to ikigai. And then it just took off. People love this. I think it's wishful thinking, though. I think what we're really talking about with this is kind of like what you're saying with this Venn diagram. It's really like what can you uniquely do, and like what are the opportunities in the world, right? So like, yeah, thanks, Jill. Yeah, exactly. Um, so maybe there's like this new Venn diagram, like what you uniquely can do. What are the current opportunities in the world, right? Because you need to be realist. Like you can't make like I don't know. I mean, there are like many things you could do. Like if you just decided I want to make like VR podcasts, right? And you love it. Like that's a really smart thing to do now, right? So it's like figuring out what's possible. Um, if you want to become like, if you're trying to like map real world goal of like becoming New York Times bestseller, but like I can just write consistently, that's really hard. So I think the opportunities are often like these emerging mediums, right? Like this live streaming. I don't know where this will go. Will I become a famous YouTuber in 10 years? No idea. But like, can I do mediocre YouTube videos for the next 10 years? Sure, probably. Might take me somewhere interesting, but I have no idea. So it's sort of like combining it with this foundational no expectations of outcomes. Nice. Hey, Caramender. like like the feedback. Um, cool. Do like 10 more minutes of questions. Today's going to be an interesting day. So I had one curiosity conversation this morning. I have this now, and then I'm hosting a workshop for my consulting skills with a chemicals company later, I think. And then I'm doing a studio recording of my audiobook. So I'm a little concerned about my voice. Want to make sure I am rested. One thing I've learned from doing the audiobook is like it's actually super hard to talk for long periods of time. Your voice like fries, like mine, like when I'm like making that noise, like you fry a little. And so when you're in like a 2-hour recording session, you get to an hour and a half, and you sound terrible. So it's very hard to record for long sessions of time. But yeah, that's been a whole learning experience itself. Yeah, interesting question. Surprising thing people don't realize is I talk to a lot of people with full-time jobs, and they really jam with a lot of what I'm writing. There's a certain personality type, which it's independent of your work relationship, which is just somebody that's curious and reflective and like wants to think more deeply about like how these pieces fit into their life. So I talk to a lot of those people. Um, and interesting enough, a lot of like the people I work with will discover my other stuff. Like it's not like I'm not like throwing it in people's faces. They're separate brands. But people will find it and they just sort of find it cool. Something shifted in 2020. For sure. Because people just started talking about this stuff more. And it wasn't as weird. It's becoming more normal in companies. It's becoming more normal in like families to talk about this. That's a big one. Like people didn't talk about this stuff in their families, friends, with their parents, with their spouses before 2020, as much as they are now. Um, so Yeah, for me, there's really not. Um, the non-work guy. What I'm really trying to do is build a life around doing designing for liking work. This is what I talk about in my book too. It's like I'm designing for liking work. I'm designing for feeling alive. I actually love teaching the consulting skills. Like I do these 2-hour workshops and I'm like, yes, this is so fun. Like it's exciting. People are asking questions, like they're learning. I'm seeing like light bulbs go off and it's like I love that. Do I want to work on like a 60-hour a week consulting project for an industrial company managing the rollout of initiatives and tracking metrics? No. So if I was doing that and writing my book, I think there'd be more of cognitive dissonance. But on the consulting work corporate side, I try more and more to only do the things that I know I can continue to do. Um, so I could make a lot more money doing more traditional freelance consulting, but for me, that's not the game. Um, Short-term income is not interesting to me. Long-term income may be interesting, but more interesting is just a sense of aliveness and connectedness to the world. Yeah, I probably sound like a broken record with the energy levels thing. Um, some I think I started to realize this recently. Like I think going through a health crisis, 2012 to 2014 was a really rough period for me. I had to take several months off work. The treatment I had for Lyme disease and other stuff I was going through, some thyroid stuff, and um, I think some autoimmune issues, and it was just so rough. And in that period, I literally would have traded anything for a single day of feeling high energy. And so now that's become like my base, like, priority. My health is my number one priority. So like everything is oriented around like being in high energy states. Um, and it's worked pretty well. I'm pretty happy when I'm in high energy states. And when I'm in a higher energy state, I'm more creative and I'm more driven to actually do stuff. So yeah, it's just so important. And I really have had to learn to do what my body gives me, um, which it sucks and it's really hard sometimes, but it's also sort of something I've tried to turn into my strength. So yeah, it's a very good focusing mechanism. Hi, Bawesh. Um, greetings. Um, yeah, 9 people is pretty good. Um, yeah, should I do more of these? What should I do different next time? What worked well, what didn't? Um, if people join the link directly too, they can like come on stage and I can add people to the conversation. That was my original idea. Maybe people like the passive questions too. I guess I'm decent at rambling. But yeah, this was fun. This was a good first test. Too scared. No, I this is fine. There's 9 people watching. Um, Basically, last week I had like 9 calls, um, and I was totally drained the next day too. And I'm like, okay, I think this is getting like unsustainable. I have a lot of big goals I'm working on this month, so like it was a way to like test out this new format. Um, I want to figure out some way to say like, hey, if you really like feel like we need to chat, like that should happen. Um, but not make it like so easy that like I'm sort of like seeking out endless number of calls. Um, and I'm just intrigued by like live streaming. I think it's a it's kind of a fun thing to like throw people's up questions up. But yeah, it's just an experiment. Gonna do it for the next month, and then by the end of this work block, I'll figure out what to do in the next one. Hmm. Yeah. You can throw emojis in the chat, right? I think if you hit the Windows key in the period or the function key in the period together, you can like pull up emojis, right? You can just throw some of these in there, right? um, yeah. Uh, yeah, that I think that would be cool. I think you're volunteering maybe. We should do that. Um, yeah, I think that would be cool. I think one interesting thing I want to tap into is like with my podcast and with what I'm doing is like so many people doing what I'm doing are like, I want to get the most famous people, get them on the podcast, grow, build audience, attract attention. This is not interesting. The most interesting conversations I have are like with 19-year-olds who are trying to refactor their paths, people in China who are trying to think about refactoring their scripts. So like like the source of like my writing and my ideas are like all these fascinating conversations I have with people from all around the world who are just like normal people like me trying to figure out stuff. So yeah, it's yeah, I think that's a cool idea. A good way to remix it. So maybe I could even have like a guest segment of like 15, 20 minutes. Um, but yeah, how have you turned your energy levels in Valerie? Nice. Um, welcome to the chat. Be- I don't really have a choice. I constantly have periods where I have weird health issues. Dealing with some stuff now. I was dealing with stuff earlier this year, last year. Like the past 3 years have been really rough. So I like I design for liking what I do, such that when I have energy, I'm excited by doing it. So like I'm always thinking about these things. Then when my health corrects, I'm like, yes, let's go do it. Um, yeah. So it's the combo of like obsessively designing for only doing things that give me energy and I like doing, um, combined with like, okay, my body only has so much energy, or goes through these rough patches of ups and downs. That combo's been powerful. Will continue. Um, awesome. So I'm gonna wrap. I gotta prep for my next thing I'm doing. Go forth. What you're doing matters. Believe in yourself. Do cool stuff. Share it with the world. Um, let me know how I can help. Talk to you later, everyone. Thanks for joining.